Hey, how's it going? I'm Ron.
I'm Zach.
We're from Widetrack, and we're back with another episode of Influences. This week,
It's a little tough to see. We have the police.
the police,
Or the police.
or police. No,
Or
it's
the police.
the police, as opposed to police. Police, Stuart Copeland, Andy Summers, and Sting. Arguably the most popular band of the 80s. Certainly one of the most commercially successful bands of the 80s. And Zach has been having a little bit of alone time with the Police's music lately. And so give us some of your initial thoughts on this band.
They're very different from all the other bands, especially of that time period. And I think that's one of the biggest things is, I'd seen some documentaries and they said that Stuart Copeland was originally trying to find a band to hop on the punk scene that was going on in London at the time. And they definitely did accomplish that with the high energy and all that, but they were more than a punk band, they were more than whatever type of band you choose to call them. They were a whole bunch of different things, and they were their own thing, which is incredibly important and makes a band so much more better when you're able to say that band does its own thing. It adds so much more depth and importance.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Police is, as you said, in addition to the punk elements, they took reggae and combined reggae with the punk energy and a little bit of jazz, like the guitar playing of Andy Summers, very jazzy. Stuart Copeland's drumming, very rooted in jazz as well. Combining punk, jazz, and reggae with a rock aesthetic, so to speak, they truly came up with something revolutionary and original and very timely for the era of music that they were. This is right when the 70s were turning into the 80s, and it's just this perfect storm of uniqueness and musical excellence and good songwriting. The Police's songs are
Reminds me of Queens of the Stone Age in a way where nothing is like, whoa, how'd they play that? Impossible hard, but it's just something that you enjoy listening to. Stuart Copeland's drumming is absolutely revolutionary, but it's not that makes it so great. It's the fact that it fits the music so well, and that it's just such a delight to listen to. And they've got sort of a minimalist, almost you could say, aspect to them. Whereas you take another power trio like Rush, or the aesthetic of the band is very different. Not as much going for a full sounds like a full band, but a very intricate sound, very like a sound that's you are made efficiently, and I think all that combined with the massive different influences, and all three of them having vastly different backgrounds as well, made their music very good. Ultimately, it also did end up hurting the band, but their songwriting was absolutely phenomenal, which, something that ends up hurting a lot of bands that kind of got to the Police as well is a lot of ego. They ended up having issues with ego, mostly when Sting was sort of put as the face of the band. And, it's one of those things where I always remember what John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin said. Even if you don't really like something, you can always learn from it. No matter what it is, even if it's, oh, don't do that, you can always learn from it. And I like to think of that even with the great bands. Whenever they go through something, it's always great to remember, all right, well, that's something that we look out for and avoid. But all that aside, the songwriting, that a lot of Sting's songwriting with the Police, but the touches of each member and the songs themselves are absolutely, they're works of art.
You touch on the main point I wanted to make. My personal take on the Police, and I have plenty of friends that love the compositions by Stuart Copeland and Andy Summers for their novelty, and absolutely, there's some good stuff in there, but by and large, I'm more a fan of, and the most popular, commercially successful Police songs were written by Sting. You could tell the band tried to be a democracy, and the other guys wanted to put their songs in the mix, but they just couldn't compete with Sting's level of songwriting craftsmanship. That being said, once Sting went solo, his music, just depending on what you think of it, but for me, it really accentuates what was special about Stuart Copeland and Andy Summers. They gave the Police their sound. All three members were so important to that band sounding the way they did. It's one of the most unique sounding bands, and influentially so. I mean,
You think, like, the beauty that comes out of combining so many genres is, as long as you have your roots set in something that you personally enjoy, taking whatever you can from any other genre. Just for instance, I will return shortly. I would like to play some classical kazoo. Then, if done rightly, and if research is done accordingly, it can only add to the sound of a musical piece. Like, you'll see some great songs, like it's the solo of "Don't Stand So Close to Me," I think, I have no idea what it is, but it's this kind of swell of chords, and it could have just been a regular solo, or it could have been just strumming of chords or anything, but I feel that type of, I have no idea what it is, but that sound during the solo, it really fits the song, and it's, those among many other examples are just kind of the little touches that all these different influences really shine out on. And if nothing else, I think it's, even if you don't like them or the sound of the band, it's one of those things where you can look at them and say, I want to do that. I want to take as many things as I can and put them all into a musical stew.
Yeah, that's, you bring up a real interesting point about songwriting. It's like, as I said, with a lot of these songs, Sting brought in the songs, but and they were finished as far as the arrangements and the lyrics and the chords and melodies and stuff, but
not only did the other members try and add their own touches to them, they tried to do so fairly forcefully. Like, it was often a argument in the studio to do so, but hey, if you put all that aside, then they got a fairly good product out of it. So I'd say it was
yeah, it's funny because it's like,
all's well that ends well, perhaps.
Let's say you got Sting coming in and he's like, guys, I got a song called "Walking on the Moon." It's done. Here's how it goes, and he plays it for the other guys, and he even shows Andy Summers the chords. But the way that Andy Summers plays the guitar and the way that Stuart Copeland plays the drums in that song, Sting has played those songs in his solo bands since the Police disbanded, and it's just not the same, in my opinion. There's something about those three guys in the Police that those songs have to have those three people. Even if one guy was writing all that stuff, those three guys make that sound. Yeah. And it's one of those things that sometimes isn't given enough credit for a band being what a, when someone's attracted to a band, it's not always the songs. It's like, wow, I like the way these guys sound. There's been a lot of bands who started off with some mild success, but they didn't really have hit songs. But people just really loved their vibe, and they really loved the way that maybe the personalities of each guys or the collective sound. And that is something that, by law, there's certain laws of songwriting and its lyrics and melody, but that doesn't account for some of these intangible things. And Police is a great example of, you can't replace any of the guys in this band. It's if you do, it's not the Police, and that to us is a pretty influential thing.
Creating a band where each member of the band, whether they contribute to the songwriting or not, is a crucial part to the band.
Yeah.
Like I made a comparison to Queens of the Stone Age earlier, but it was kind of iffy because they've had good deal of lineup changes, yet their core songs and their core feel has still stayed pretty similar. As with the Police, I think before they even released their first album, they had a different guitarist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only assume that it was a totally different band. Having a band where each member of your band is democratic in the way, or having a band that's democratic in a way where each member of your band is contributing not necessarily the ideas, but the feeling, is just as valuable, I think. So, it's one of those things that it's really inspiring.
So as far as the Police go, they have a couple different eras. The Police had 5 albums, and then they were done. They had Outlandish D'Amour, I don't know how to, Outlaws of Love. That was their first album, and that Roxanne, the big hit.
They had a very more punk than others on that album.
Very raw, but poppy raw and punk, and then they had Regatta de Blanc, which is white reggae.
Walking on the Moon, the title track, of course.
Message in a Bottle. Yeah. So they continue to climb. Their third album, my personal favorite,
Zenyatta Mandata.
Zenyatta Mandata.
Has songs like Don't Stand So Close to Me, Driven to Tears, Canary in a Coal Mine,
When the World is Running Down, da-do-do-do-da-da-da. Andy Summers won a Grammy for instrumental on that album, Behind My Camel. When the World is Running Down is a really good song. So that album was put out in 1980, and that was right on the cusp of the Police just hitting the sweet spot with being refined and being more polished, but still having a little bit of the 70s rawness about them.
That was the album that got them super big. That was the album that kind of established.
Don't Stand So Close to Me. And do-do-do-do-da-da-da. Then after that, you have Ghost in the Machine, and they continued their climb. Ghost in the Machine was 1981. This was the first tour that they said, okay, we need more people on stage with us. And so they started bringing in horn players and backup singers, and it became a bigger production. Ghost in the Machine had some hit songs, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Invisible Sun, Spirits in the Material World.
Fairly dark album.
Fairly dark album. Polished, big production.
Definitely.
And it was when they first started showing signs of maybe this band isn't going to last.
Yeah.
And sure enough, their next album was their last album, and their most successful, Synchronicity.
With, the big hit by them that many people know, Every Breath You Take, which, partial to its important song in their career. But besides that, they had lots of cool songs on that album, like, Synchronicity, Parts 1 and 2. Along with Murder by Numbers, and I believe Tea in the Sahara was on that one.
Tea in the Sahara, great song. King of Pain, Wrapped Around Your Finger. All of these again, Sting compositions.
All their albums are very different, and they've all got really cool songs. So if you're not totally familiar with the Police, we do recommend not only the ones that we mentioned, but anything else on their albums. It's very rare that you'll find a whole bunch of stuff you dislike on a Police album.
Yeah, once they had been broken up for a few years, they released a double live album called The Police Live, and it has 2 concerts, one from '79, which was when they were first getting started, I think on the Regatta de Blanc tour, and then the other one is from the Synchronicity tour after they were huge, and it's really one of the best live albums.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing live album.
They do more than just play the songs, note for note in their entirety too.
Yep.
Like one example that stands out to me is The Bed's Too Big Without You, which is really cool, although I do recommend listening to both the original and that one. The live version is definitely a very cool expedition. Yeah, for lack of a better term. Cool.
Yeah. So, if you get a chance, check out The Police. 5 albums and a double live album, and of course they have a greatest hits thing called The Hits, I believe, and that's great too. Or the Police box set, which has all the albums. Can't go wrong. I'm sure there's something for everybody. Great band. We're very influenced by them in
numerous ways.
So, thanks so much for hanging with us. We'll be back next week after. We're trying to get our new album together, so it's shipped out. We're just waiting for them to come back, and we're getting other things ready for our CD release party. So we'll keep you in touch on that. If you haven't subscribed, please feel free to. And till next time, keep on rocking.